Good evening, members of the board. Gene Butcher, Waterford Regional Fire Department Deputy Chief. I want to speak plainly about the loss of this fire millage actually means. This was not a disagreement over a park. This is not about a street light. This is not about some vague, unsubstantiated claim about a padded pension. This was dedicated funding for emergency response in Waterford Township. As of right now, the fire department has lost more than $3 million in public safety funding. Not theoretical funding, not extra funding, not luxury funding, funding that supports emergency response in Waterford Township. I've heard people say over and over again the fire department should tighten its belt, sharpen its pencil, and learn how to budget. We already do that. We have done it since 1941. We will continue to do it. The fact over the last 10 years, the Waterford Regional Fire Department has come in under budget 10 out of 10 years. That did not happen by luck. It did not happen by chance. It did not happen by moving numbers around on a ledger. It happened because this department has practiced responsible spending, responsible budgeting, and accountable financial management year after year that is audited yearly. But there's a point where that phrase, sharpen your pencil, becomes a slogan instead of a solution. Sharpened pencils do not respond to medical emergencies. They're not highly trained, highly motivated, and highly capable paramedics standing ready when someone's husband, wife, child, or parent stops breathing. Sharpened pencils do not cut people out of wrecked vehicles. Sharpened pencils do not put on 70 pounds of protective equipment, crawl down smoke-filled hallways in a house to protect life and property. Firefighters do that. And firefighters and paramedics require training, equipment, apparatus, protective gear, stations, maintenance, and funding. The men and women in this department are deeply dedicated to this community. That dedication is not a slogan. It is seen at 3 in the morning on holidays, in storms, in burning buildings, in living rooms, in schools, nursing homes, and the worst moments of people's lives. Our firefighters serve this community because they believe in the work. They believe in the responsibility. They believe in the oath they took, and we take that oath seriously. Our oath contains the line, to protect life and property, to serve the community, and to uphold the trust placed in us. We do not treat those words casually. For many of us, that oath is almost biblical in how seriously we take it. It's a promise, it's a duty, it's a commitment to go where others won't, to act when others can't, and to place the safety of the community above our own comfort every day on every call. That commitment does not end when the alarm stops. I could list hundreds of examples of how our people act in the community and interact with our community members. They never make a headline. They're not done for an ounce of recognition. Meals are purchased for families, money donated quietly, union activities that feed hundreds of families, Christmases paid for children who are not going to have one, help given to people who will never know exactly who it came from or how it was given. There's an endless list of things the men and women of the Waterford Regional Fire Department do for this community, and they do it without fanfare. They do it without expectation of repayment. They do it because they care about the community. They do it because at their core, that is who they are, each and every one of them, and they will continue to do it. But that dedication should never be confused with an unlimited ability to absorb cuts. Their willingness to serve does not make apparatus cheaper. Their compassion does not replace staffing. Their generosity does not fund ambulances, fire engines, turnout gear, cardiac monitors, rescue tools, fuels, training, or station coverage. There's also a large amount of concern, misunderstanding, and blatant misinformation surrounding the fire department's coverage of the city of Pontiac and Lake Angeles. That needs to be addressed honestly and openly. Pontiac is not receiving the fire protection for free. Pontiac pays for the service through a contract, as does Lake Angeles. They pay for service through that contract. Waterford residents pay through dedicated millages and other taxpayer support. Those are different funding structures, but all three communities are contributing to the regional fire department model. However, the idea that Pontiac receives the exact same service model as Waterford for less money is not accurate. In 2025, 38% of the calls were in Pontiac. They contribute 43.14% of our budget. They do not receive the same advanced life support, care, and transport that Waterford citizens do. Waterford residents received Waterford Regional Fire Department advanced life support, paramedic care, and transport through our rescue units. Pontiac's fire protection contract does not include ambulance transport or Waterford Regional Fire Department ALS transfer service. Pontiac contracts separately for that service in Pontiac. That is not an insult to Pontiac. That is not an attack on Pontiac residents or Pontiac leadership. It is simply the service model that exists under this contract. So when this issue is twisted into the claim that Waterford residents are simply paying for Pontiac, or Pontiac is receiving the exact same service without paying its share, it is not supported by facts. And when those facts are presented clearly and people continue to misrepresent them, then the issue is no longer confusion, it becomes misinformation. The truth is this: Waterford, Pontiac, and Lake Angeles are all served through the Waterford Regional Fire Department, but they are all not funded the same way. They do not receive the exact same service. Responsible budgeting does not mean we control the marketplace. We do not control the cost of fire engines, ambulances, ladder trucks, replacement parts, repairs, equipment, or the national supply chain that gives them to us. And frankly, this department has always taken a certain amount of pride in making things work. Firefighters are problem solvers by nature. We fix things ourselves when we can. We stretch the life of equipment when it's safe and responsible to do so. We keep older apparatus running. We patch, repair, rebuild, repurpose, and squeeze every bit of purposeful life out of a piece of equipment. There's almost a challenge in it for us. We do not run to replace something just because it's old. We try to make it work. But there is a limit. There's a point where making old equipment last longer is no longer responsible. There's a point where repair costs become a trap. There's a point where keeping worn-out apparatus in service starts pulling more and more money out of the budget while still delaying the replacement that has to happen eventually. The rising cost and delay of fire apparatus is not a Waterford problem alone. It is a national problem. This very issue has drawn federal attention because fire departments across the country are facing sharply higher apparatus prices, longer delivery delays, and serious concerns about cost increases in the fire apparatus industry. So when people say budget better, they need to understand no local fire chief, township board, finance director can budget tight enough to make $1 million fire engine what it did 2 years ago. But even beyond the cost of equipment, you cannot budget enough to erase a $3 million hole. You cannot budget your way out of misinformation. You cannot maintain the same level of life-saving service while permanently removing the revenue that pays for that service and pretend nothing changes. A budget reduction is not a net zero event. It has consequences. And staffing positions are not replaced, it affects response capabilities. If ambulances and fire engines are not replaced on schedule, they continue to age. As apparatus age, repairs become more frequent and more expensive. That pulls even more money out of the operating budget. Eventually, the department is spending more to keep old equipment alive while we are unable to afford the replacement that should have happened in the first place. That is not fiscal responsibility. It becomes a black hole where deferred replacement creates a higher maintenance cost. Higher maintenance costs consume more of the budget, and the ability to plan for the future gets weaker every year. In the middle of all that, the public's expectations does not change. When someone calls 911, they do not expect a reduced answer. They do not expect fewer trained personnel. They do not expect an aging ambulance that should have been replaced years ago. They do not expect a fire engine out of service because repairs finally caught up with delayed planning. They expect help to arrive. They expect firefighters and paramedics to be trained, equipped, staffed, and ready. That expectation costs money. What is most frustrating is that some of the damage done in this millage was not based on fact. It was based on misinformation, half-truths, and egregious attacks on the fire department, including some that came from inside this very chamber. Those statements have consequences. When the public voices create doubt without evidence, when they reduce emergency response funding to slogans, when they suggest a $3 million loss can simply be absorbed by better budgeting, they're not just criticizing the department, they're affecting the safety of the community. We are and will continue to be accountable. We can and should always explain our budget. We can and will look for efficiencies. But accountability is not the same thing as pretending that emergency services can be funded with slogans. This department has answered the calls, it has managed its resources, it has come in under budget year after year, it has planned, adjusted, repaired, delayed, and stretched dollars wherever possible. But there's a point where cutting funding no longer creates efficiency, it creates risk. The loss of this millage means Waterford has lost more than $3 million for emergency response. That is the reality. It cannot be dismissed as simple as a budget exercise. It cannot be explained away as though nothing will change. Something will change. The only question is whether we're willing to face that now or when the change occurs. Consequences could mean slower replacement, reduced staffing through attrition, delayed equipment purchases, increased repair costs, and greater strain on the very people we expect to respond daily. The fire department will continue to do its job. That has never been a question. The question is whether the community is willing to provide the resources necessary for the department to continue doing the job at the level the residents expect and deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. Anybody got any questions for Deputy Chief?
Yep. A couple questions. Is Chief Nye okay?
Yes.
Yes, he's
Okay.
okay.
So same questions. What's the number of firefighters, annual salary, annual funding, unassigned funds?
We have 114 staff. Average salary probably is about 75. Our, I'm sorry, what was it?
What's the total annual funding? That's be easier.
I'll start, just because I'm on that page 12 in the budget that's online and available to everyone. Projected year end for 26 for the fire fund, the 206 fund dedicated is 6.1 million. That equates to about 22.5% of annual expenditures. So similar to the police department, just a tick lower.
What's their total funding? Do they get anything from the SAD?
No, I'm talking to you about fund balance.
Oh, fund balance.
At
Okay.
home, maybe you can think about that as a savings account, a buffer, something like that.
So what was that?
6.1 million, and that equates to a 22.5% annual expenditure ratio. That's something that we look at, a ratio, your money that you have in reserve to your annual operating expenses. That's just a metric that's used to, it's like taking a temperature, if you will.
So that's the unassigned funds.
Yes.
Okay. So what's the annual funding for the department?
So if you look at page 58 in the budget, the 206 fund, the fire fund is the 206 fund. Their annual budget for 26 was 27.8 million in revenue. And then you wheel over to the expenditures. At the end of page 61, you'll see 27.4 million projected.
Anybody else have any comments, questions?
I do, Deputy Chief.
Go ahead.
With this $3 million shortfall in funding, it sounds like that at some point is definitely going to be reflected in services and response times.
It very well could be. Response time services will always continue.
We have such great services here in Waterford. I'd like to commend and acknowledge all of the first responders that are here this evening. 2 years ago, my 81-year-old father had a heart attack. For reasons unbeknownst to me, he called me first. All I could understand was my chest. I hung up, called 911. While I was getting in my vehicle racing to my parents' house, who also live in Waterford. I got there in less than 10 minutes, and our EMS and fire department and police were already there, already in the house, already had my dad on a stretcher, loading him into an ambulance. I can't believe that any resident would want to jeopardize those services for themselves, their parents, or anybody else in this township. So again, I want to thank our first responders.
Thank you.
Deputy Chief, I have said this before. You can't put a price tag on human life. It can't be done. And if Waterford Regional Fire Department and their emergency response saves one human life in Waterford Township, it's worth every penny it takes to fund that fire department.
Thank you.
Well said, well said.
Jeff mentioned his dad, my mom, who lived in the plumbing sub across here from Township Hall in Fire Station 1. In her later years, she made it to 95 years old, but she fell several times and needed lift assist. And they responded to her enough that a couple of firefighters was on a first name basis with her.
I remember your mom. I responded on her too.
Yes, but again, that was a wonderful service that you performed for her, and there was nobody else to do it. I mean, it happened, and I was so grateful for that when it happened, and I was able to personally experience that. But there's a lot of other people, and that's the one thing I like about both of our public service departments as far as fire in EMS and our Waterford Police Department. When I hear stories about them, fact-based stories. I don't spend any time on social media, and I'm not talking about opinions, ideas, emotions. I'm talking when people share fact-based things with you, their experiences interacting in the departments. It's always good. It's not bad, it's good. And that's what's so wonderful about our public safety. It is. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
So, so the salaries are about 8.6 million? What's the salaries? At 75,000, 114 firefighters, about 8.6
Yep.
roughly?
You'd have to back in all the benefits as well.
Add in the
It's not-
benefits?
Yeah, so if you look at
Because that'll leave about 19 million in annual revenue. That goes for the fire trucks. That, I know last year, or this year, was it last year and this year, we voted for 2 more fire trucks, about $1 million fire trucks, which we needed. And there's maintenance on those trucks. I've, if we're talking about things in a safe community, we really got to get a roads program so we're not beating these trucks up, going to all these responses in the neighborhoods. We talk about a lot of things. We have to make sure when we're talking about a budget, police, fire, in increases that we, maybe don't increase everything so much where the residents can't vote to have a SAD district to fix their roads. Like we really need a program like Independence Township just passed recently last month to assist their residents with the Public Act 188 residential road repair program. If we overtax everybody on everything and increase everything, there won't be any money left over to fix our roads.
Can I make one point about increases? We've talked about percentages tonight and whatnot. When I started budgeting, I think your baseline, help me out here, I'm not saying this very probably technically correct, but the base fire engine was about 500,000. Now we're pushing $1 million, and that wasn't too many years ago. So those have
doubled. Yeah.
Those have doubled in price. It's a national and a federal issue.
And we reviewed all that in the budgets. That's why, we all voted unanimously for that.
But it's part of the explanation to the public, though, too. When they're talking about, and I hear them, price at the gas pump, price for groceries, I got you. I'm with you, 1,000%. But talk about percentages, that's like 100% in, half a dozen years. So that's part of the answer. I'm not saying it's everything that's going on.
Well, that's why we're at.
And it's big. And
that's why we're at where we're at.
And you can't have a fire department if you don't have a fire truck.
Those trucks, that price were in the budget, and we approved it for 2026.
All of those costs reflect on our departments and our services, just like it does our people. We're all in the same boat. We're trying to do the very best we can to provide the services at the level that we have been trying to do so. I just want to say that we're all impacted. Our departments are, the supplies, the services, and us as homeowners. I wish I had a solution, but we're trying the best that we can.
Yep, we support the police and fire, and our taxes support them. And, with the increased property values and the increased inflation that drives up the increases on our taxes, we do support them at the current level. And I don't want to cut it out of the budget. And I hope tonight we separate, having the renewal. That don't even put an increase, but I'll have to see what's been prepared for tonight when they read it out loud here, hopefully soon.
Yes, I hope it's soon, too. Somebody would like to make a motion?